Welcome, everybody, to the Resilient Minds podcast. I'm super grateful uh, to welcome a really amazing veteran holistic physician, Dr. Bradley Nelson. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, Eric. It's really great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
It's amazing to have you. And for those of you that don't know, Dr. Bradley is one of the world's foremost experts on natural methods of achieving wellness. He's created the Emotion Code and the Body Code, which is also a book that that provides step-by-step instructions for working with your body's natural healing energy and healing power. And it's fascinating, these types of things that are not necessarily communicated to us from a young age, that should be, that I believe are really inherent in important, uh, that almost feel like such a distance between what is available to us all. So, what really got you into this and got you curious about this? Because I always say that our experiences of our life, they are contributing to our why, our big purpose. So, and I know that we go through these different experiences to say, you know what, that worked for me, and then we start to apply them for ourselves, and then we want to share about it to the world. So please, I'd love to know more about what got you into this and what kind of motivated you.
Yeah, well, I had some really interesting things happen. When I was 7 years old, I was really sick with the measles, and my mother asked my father to pray for me. And as my father was praying for me, I was instantly completely healed. And that I remember that like it happened yesterday, and it was a long time ago now. That taught me that healing doesn't have to necessarily take a long time. It happened to me once, instantly. It also taught me that there's a higher power, an unseen power that we can draw upon and ask for help. Well, about 7 years after that, 6 or 7 years after that, I ended up with kidney disease and nothing medical that could be done. And I was cured of that kidney disease really by the efforts of some holistic doctors. So I decided that's what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to be a doctor. Well, then in 1980, I took a class on computer programming. And then it was all over for me. I decided I'm going to be a programmer. This is amazing. And so that's what I did back in the early 80s when IBM first came out with its IBM PC. I was a programmer. I'd go into people's businesses and I would look at their flow and I would write the software that they could use to run their business. And because there was no software back then off the shelf, I mean, there was almost nothing. And so I loved doing that. And I thought I was going to do that for the rest of my life. But then I reached kind of a crossroads in my life, and I needed to really make a decision about what to do. And I had these two dreams, being in computers and business or becoming a healer. And I didn't know what to do. And I actually prayed about that, and I got a really powerful answer that directed me to go into the healing arts. So I did. Well, I'd been a programmer, right? When I got married, right around this time, I got married in 1981, and I was doing a lot of computer programming at the time. After I got married, my wife got really sick, and I didn't know what was wrong with her. I had no idea, but she'd get up in the morning and have enough energy to make me breakfast, and then she'd go back to bed and cry because she was so sick. So we took her to see this guy named Dr. Stan Flagg. He practiced up in Kalispell, Montana, where the state that I'm from. And he started working with her, and he was doing muscle testing. So he'd have her hold out her arm, and then he would place different supplements on her palm, and she would be strong or weak for these different supplements. And I remember sitting there thinking, okay, this guy's really, he's either really onto something here or this is just a huge scam. And so my wife took home a whole box, like a shoe box full of all these supplements she needed to take. But within about a week, she was completely better. And so that taught me, there's something to this, but I didn't really understand it. Well, when I was in school, chiropractic school, one day, my neurology instructor was up at the chalkboard. He was talking about the brain, and he was saying, he was kind of riffing on how the brain is a computer. And at the time, I was partly putting myself through school by programming the admissions office computers at the school that I was going to. And I remember sitting there thinking, wow, the brain is a computer. I wonder if someday we'll have the technology to be able to access the brain and get into the brain through some kind of back door and actually ask questions and get answers from the brain itself. Wouldn't that be amazing? Because the brain must know what's really wrong with our patients. That would be unbelievable, right? And I remember thinking, well, maybe in 200 or 300 years, we'll have that technology. Little did I know, Eric, that's what I was going to spend the rest of my career doing. Exactly that. Learning how to tap into the subconscious mind, which is this computer within us. And it has all the answers about what we really need. And so that's kind of in a nutshell, short version, how I got here. So I practiced for about 18 years or so. And then I eventually realized I needed to get out, and the information that I had learned had to get out to the world. And so I wrote a book called The Emotion Code. First came out in 2007, same month and year as the iPhone, in fact. And just to kind of help you to place where that was. And so The Emotion Code is really, it's a book by that name, but it's also a method. It's a method of helping you to find and remove your emotional baggage. And emotional baggage is the energies that become trapped in the body during those emotional experiences that we would rather not go through. The difficulties from abuse or divorce or difficult work situations, or you name it. We all go through difficult emotions at times. But what I found was in my practice, because I had learned to communicate with the subconscious minds of my patients, I found that was the single biggest common denominator for all my patients, that they had emotional baggage, and that emotional baggage was causing symptoms for them. And it was contributing to disease processes and infertility and asthma and digestive problems and depression and anxiety and phobias and panic attacks and PTSD and eating disorders and physical pain of all kinds. And that's why I left practice and wrote this book, because I figured, well, I knew I needed to. I knew that was what I was supposed to do. But also I knew this information had to get out to the world, because it wasn't just for me. Everybody had to know this.
Profound. I mean, and especially the fact that you're talking about the subconscious, being able to then actually communicate with us without us naturally recognizing it. What about those that are starting to become conscious of the subconscious, and so as a result can start to pay attention to the language of what their body is communicating to them? And now, how is this possible? And how ancient, like how old can that level of communication be from something greater than ourselves? And is it possible to really listen to that language? Because we know that 55% of that language happens in our body, or of any language happens through our body, 38 in our face, and then 7 with just uh, with just the words that are coming out of our mouth. So I'm curious, with this type of language that's being facilitated through our bodies, how is it possible to listen? Is it possible to hear? Is it possible to pay more attention to that subconscious once you become aware of it?
Well, it absolutely is. And part of the work that we do, or really a side effect of the work that we do, is that people begin to become more aware of what's really going on with their bodies. And so what I have found is that all the symptoms that we suffer from, all the physical pain, all the things that I mentioned before, all the dysfunctions that we have physically, mentally, emotionally, are really symptoms. They're ways that the subconscious mind tries to communicate those imbalances to us, so that we can consciously recognize those imbalances and then take action and hopefully fix those things. And so I think that it has to do I'll share some of my own beliefs here. I believe that we are eternal beings, that we've always existed, that we will always exist, and that right now we're in this physical situation. But before we were physical, we were spirit, and we're spirit now. And in fact, there's a spirit within each one of us. And if you could take my spirit out of my body and put it right next to me, I think it would look exactly like me in every detail. I believe that the physical body, and in fact, I know that this is true, the physical body is a temple for that spirit to inhabit. And so as we go through our lives, I think one of the things that we are supposed to learn how to do, one of the things we're supposed to learn is what that interface is and how the subconscious communicates to us. And most of the time, most people go through their lives in a pretty oblivious way. Pain happens. We don't associate it with what just happened a few days ago that was intensely emotional. We don't connect things. But as you start to use the emotion code, especially, and you start to find and remove the trapped emotions that are in your body, and you start to realize, oh, wow, that back pain now that's gone, gee, that was actually from my divorce, and that was 25 years ago. Gee, that's interesting. Or you find, that you've got some kind of inherited trapped emotion that was creating some other thing in the body. Trapped emotions don't always cause symptoms, but they often do. And sometimes we inherit emotional energies at conception from mom or dad, and those can go back for generations.
Do you feel like generational trauma associated with, our ancestry has been a byproduct of so much of scarcity consciousness from the past that has affected most of us or many of us around the planet?
Well, I think that I think that scarcity consciousness definitely has been a part of it. I mean, I've seen cases where people had real issues with money, for example, and the biggest underlying cause ended up being an inherited trapped emotion of betrayal or grief or something that I think ended up having to do with money. That might have been, it was something that maybe happened, 10, 20 generations ago. Someone was thrown into the poorhouse, then later had children, and that emotional energy was passed down the line. So I think that, there's definitely been a scarcity mentality in this world overall, I would say, without question, and that's contributed to where we are now. The beautiful thing, though, is that now with the emotion code, we can identify those emotional energies in an individual and release them. And what's really interesting, Eric, is that when we release an emotional energy like that from a person that was inherited, apparently it releases from that person, but also from their children, even their grandchildren, great grandchildren, but it also releases the other direction up the family tree. So if you got something from your dad when you were conceived or your mom, it'll release from them if we release it from you. And it also will release from all those other generations, even if it goes back 10, 20, 30 generations. It's really, really, really interesting. My own belief is that all of those ancestors of ours are spirit beings that still inhabit this earth, and they're still alive. They're still sentient. We can't see them. They're kind of on a different dimension from us, but they still have their emotional baggage in many cases. And by working on a living human being and releasing their inherited emotional energy, we're clearing those ancestors as well. And I think that this earth belongs to them as well as it does us. And I think that to transform this world, we need to heal them as well. So it's really interesting. But I think that it's not only the scarcity mentality, it's also all of the other kinds of traumas that they experienced. There are books written about people who were the grandchildren of Holocaust survivors. And when they analyze these grandchildren, they find that there are lots of differences in them. They're more susceptible to diseases, and there are changes in their DNA and in their immune systems and in their ability to withstand stress and so on. And the only possible explanation for these things is what the grandparents went through. Well, if you think about it, we all have ancestors, and at some point, every person in the world uh, had ancestors that went through something really difficult. I mean, you think about the history of this world, and it's all about war and tragedy for the most part, right? And so we're all carrying energies like that from our ancestors. And so releasing those not only heals the living human being, the mortal human being, and that's living in this present moment, but it also has an effect on those ancestors. And that's kind of an exciting bonus to the emotion code.
I love it. Is there a process that you could take me through for anybody that's listening, and something that if anybody's listening or wants to watch it back or listen to it, a process that we can do together right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you'd like to, I could work on you, and we can release something on you, see what shows up.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right, fine. So here's how this works. First of all, I'll be using the emotion code chart. And the emotion code chart is just a chart made up of 60 emotions divided up into 2 columns and 6 rows. And I can either share my screen if you want, or or people can just go online and they can find the emotion code chart. There's just go to Google and look for emotion code chart.
I just made you a co-host, so if you want to share it, feel free.
Oh,
Whatever
okay,
you
great.
feel, whatever you feel is best.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, so here we go. So let me just do one other thing here really quick. Okay, here we go. Here's our chart of emotions. So we utilize principles of quantum physics that have been known about for a very long time, such as the principle of entanglement. That means that subatomic particles can become entangled with other subatomic particles at vast distances, at least as great as the diameter of the Earth. And then those connected particles are in a state of very solid communication. And we call this acting by proxy. And so what I can do here with you is I can make a connection with you. And because all of this work has really come from up above, what we recommend for people is that before you do this work, you take a moment, and if you happen to believe in a higher power, ask for help, because that opens that conduit. And it's not a religious thing. It's just if you believe that there's a power greater than us that maybe had something to do with creating us or creating the Earth, the moon, the sun, the stars, everything else. It's a good idea to ask for help, because if you ask for help, then you get it. So I'll just take one moment here and ask for help for us. Okay, here we go.
Please do.
Okay, great. All right, Eric, here we go. I'll just take a few notes here. So let's, first of all, let me ask you, do you have any kind of physical, mental, or emotional symptom going on right now?
Physical, mental, or emotional. I feel very peaceful, calm, relaxed.
Cool. Okay, that's great. Well, that's fine. And you don't have to have a symptom to use the emotion code. But I thought I'd ask anyway, because a lot of symptoms are caused by emotional baggage. So what I'll be doing here as I work on you, I'll be using what we call the ring in ring method. And what that looks like is, and we teach this in the books and videos and courses and so on. I'm going to make a ring in a ring. And as I ask questions out loud, what I'm really doing is I'm directing those questions. I'm asking your subconscious mind these questions. These are questions that your conscious mind won't know the answers to. But since our energies are entangled, then those answers from your subconscious mind will instantaneously manifest in my subconscious mind. And the result will be that as I test my fingers, they will be strong for a yes answer coming from your subconscious, or they'll be weak for a no answer coming from your subconscious mind. So let's ask this first question. Do you have a trapped emotion that we can release right now, yes or no? And the answer there is yes, that's strong. So now we look at our chart of emotions and we ask, okay, is this emotion in column A? No, it's in column B. Okay, that one's strong. So we've just eliminated half of the chart. We have 30 emotions left out of 60. So now let's divide up column B into two portions, and we'll ask, is this emotion? And see how this works is your subconscious mind knows exactly what this emotion is, and it also knows exactly what's on this chart, because this chart exists out there in the database of all that is, the realm of genius, the morphic field, whatever you want to call it, the universal intelligence that connects us all. So is this trapped emotion in column B in one of the odd rows? No. So it's in an even row. Is it in row 2 or row 4? It's in row 4 in column B. So it's one of these emotions right here. So is the emotion depression? No. Is it frustration or indecisiveness? Is it panic or taken for granted? No, it's not any of those. So I'll explain. Is this emotion actually in column B, row 4? Yes. Okay. So when we're taken to a column in a row and we can't find the answer, this is how we're usually taken to inherited trapped emotions. And so we'll ask, is this an inherited trapped emotion? And the answer is yes. So here we go. Let's see. It's an inherited trapped emotion. So let's see what emotion this is. Is it inherited depression or frustration or indecisiveness or panic? It's an inherited emotion of panic. And where'd you get this from? Did you get this from your mother? No, this came from your father. Did he get it from somebody earlier? Yes. From his father? No, he got it from his mother. Okay, that's great. And how far back does this go? Does it go back 10 generations? No. 9 generations? Yes. So 9 generations takes us back roughly to about 1787 AD, give or take probably 30 or 40 years or something. And did this begin with a female? No, it started with a male. Okay. And that's how we can identify an inherited trapped emotion, just that quickly. So do you have kids, by the way, Eric?
No, I don't.
Okay. So let's go ahead and release this inherited trapped emotion of panic that actually originated 9 generations back. Okay. So, and how we do that is we can use a hand or a magnet, and we start at the forehead and we go over the top of the head.
Use my hand.
Oh, no, you don't have to do anything. I'm releasing it
All
for
right.
you. Yeah, you can just relax. So we do 10 swipes of the magnet or hand. Your hand is also magnetic. And we're swiping over what we call the governing meridian. And that starts at the tailbone, goes straight up the back of the head over the, right down the forehead to the inside of the upper lip. We put energy into that meridian. It's kind of like taking a credit card out of your wallet and rubbing a magnet on the magnetic strip on that credit card. It just erases that data. All right. So that is how a trapped emotion is released. In this case, it was inherited. So you want to do one more?
Yes.
Okay. So let's see here. Let's go to our emotion code. And do you have another trapped emotion that we can release? And the answer is yes. So this emotion, is it in column A? This time it is. Is it in one of the odd rows in column A? No. So is it in row 2 in column A? Nope. Row 4 in column A? Nope. Row 6, column A. So it's one of these down here. Humiliation, jealousy, longing, lust, or overwhelm. Is the emotion humiliation? No. Is it jealousy? No. Is it longing or lust or overwhelm? Okay, once again, we're taken to a column in a row, and these are all negative. Is this an inherited trapped emotion? It is. Okay. So let's see what emotion this is. Is it inherited humiliation? Inherited jealousy or longing or lust or overwhelm? So it's an inherited emotion of overwhelm. And did you get this from your father? No, you got this one from your mother. And did she get this from her mother? No, she got this from her father. Does it go back further? How many generations? 10, 15, 20, 16. This one goes back 15 generations. We're back to about 1631 AD. And did this start with a female? It started with a male, okay, grandfather. So there's another one. And let's go ahead and release this one. So we do 10 swipes over the governing meridian to release that energy, and it's gone permanently. In all the years of doing this, I've never seen a trapped emotion ever come back that was released. When you do it this way and you identify what needs to be identified about it. So you want to do one more? Up to you.
If you feel, it's the right thing, I
Let's
trust.
do one more, just quickly. Do you have another trap motion we can release? Yes. Is it in column A? This is in column B. Is it in one of the odd rows? Yes. In row 1. Is it effort unreceived or heartache? This is an emotion of heartache. This is not inherited. Okay. Oops, let's see. Hang on a minute. And do we need to know more about this? Actually, we don't. Sometimes when we ask that question, do we need to know more about this? What we're doing is we're giving the subconscious mind a chance for us to dig deeper and bring something else about this to conscious awareness. But in this case, your subconscious mind says, no, that's fine. So we'll go ahead and release this with just 3 swipes. And did we release that one? And we did. And that last one of overwhelmed, did that release from everybody all the way back 15 generations? It did. And you too. Yeah. So anyway, that is, how it works. It's pretty simple.
Profound. And I could feel the shift in my breathing as you're letting go. I could
Yeah.
feel even the energy now that I'm back from like into the space of sharing. It's very oh, it's beautiful, and a bird just goes by. So like these things, I honestly, and first of all, I just want to say thank you because I don't know what I don't know, and I know that we're here to really help each other in an interconnected way, to support each other into what we're here to congruently do and serve at a high level. And this was really meaningful to me. So, and for anybody that's listening, if you can just really get into that space as well, uh, or replay it back, it will really help you really tap into something greater. And with the guidance and the trust in yourself, you can then learn to trust and guide one another, because we're all just mirrors of each other. So thank you. I really appreciate it, Brad.
You're so welcome.
So I've seen some of these what they call theta healing, and you talked about muscle test before.
Mhm.
And so I'm curious to know the reference points of how you do with the body, and how you're resonating back to the muscle test. And when you're observing and you're paying attention to the communication of the body to you, is it evident, or can somebody do this for themselves,
Mhm.
or is it more encouraging to as you're learning about it? Because why am I sharing this? Because I find I've had experiences where um, somebody that's really new, you know, to the ability of paying attention to their bodies has really tried, done their best to project some sort of uh, their thought process onto me.
Mhm.
And I didn't agree with it. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel connected. And so they would say, "Oh no, but this is what your body is telling me." And I couldn't resonate with them because I didn't feel like it was coming from that congruent place because of the way that they behaved and they showed up in their life. So
Sure.
how do you navigate these types of uh, projections versus reflections that are showing up when people are wanting to really, I know that they're doing the best that they can with the knowledge that they have. There's compassion here 100%. However,
Mhm.
the congruency in what was being occurring inside of my body and the ways that they were showing up in areas where I didn't feel like they were congruent with that nature,
Mhm.
I couldn't receive the information or the knowledge that they were saying that they know, but you and I know that we don't know unless we're actually being it. So can you, I know that's a very long-winded question of like how can we start to, but how can people start to maybe learn about this themselves so that they can just kind of really trust more in themselves to really apply this for themselves versus
Yeah. Well, absolutely. It's a great question. Muscle testing is not perfect. Nothing is. Um, and but it's an extremely useful tool. One of the things that we teach on this topic is an experience that happened to us quite a few years ago, about probably almost 25 years ago now. Back when I was in practice, I used to have women that would come to see me, friends of patients and so on, that when they were pregnant, they would come in to see me, and I would muscle test them to see what the sex of their baby was going to be. And I was about 98% accurate, which is, I think, at least as good as ultrasound. And I never charged anybody for this. It was just kind of a fun thing. They would just come in, and these weren't even really patients of mine. These were just, people that would come in for this test. And just as kind of a novelty, I think, they wanted to see, what I'd come up with, and it was eerily accurate. I didn't have any skin in the game. It didn't matter to me if they were going to have a boy or a girl, right? Well, at that time, we had two children. We had two. We had a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, and then my wife had twin boys. And it was about 3 years into this process of having these twins, which was utterly exhausting, especially for my wife, but really for both of us. And any of your listeners who have experienced having twins will know the workload doesn't double; it goes up like exponentially. Mm-hmm. And anyway, so she's kind of having an introspective moment, and at one point when these twins were about 3, and she said, "That's it," out loud. She said, That's it. I'm not having any more kids. I'm done." And all of a sudden, in her mind, she sees this little girl, this little brunette girl, and she can feel her personality, and she's very worried. And she's saying, "What? You mean you're not going to have me?" And my wife just thought, "Oh my gosh. Yes, okay, we'll have you." And so she told me about this experience. And so a while later, she got pregnant. And we're excited. It's the little girl that's coming, right? And we're thinking about names and so on. Now, when you're trying to test, to use muscle testing to determine the sex of a baby, during the first 3 months in the first trimester, the answers will be all over the map. But after about the beginning of the second trimester, the answers will solidify, and you'll get really solid answers the whole way. So I would periodically test my wife, because this is something that I was used to doing. Are you pregnant? Yes. Is it going to be a girl? Yes. And so we were certain that this girl was coming all the way through. We were excited about it, and we expected the little girl to come. And so the baby was born at home with a midwife. And I was there for the birth, and I'm counting the baby's fingers and toes, and she's got her legs crossed. And so I thought, well, I better check everything. And I uncrossed her legs, and it turned out that it wasn't Elizabeth, it was Joseph. And I thought, how did this happen? Right? I've been had. We've been fooled. But see, muscle testing is susceptible to your own desires. And so we were expecting the little girl. We wanted it to be the little girl. And so the muscle testing all that time came out that way. The subconscious mind is kind of like a puppy. It wants to please you. And if you have some kind of hidden desire for the muscle test to come out a certain way, the subconscious mind can see that happens. And so you have to really be a blank slate. And that's why we teach people this story, because even though I was so good at muscle testing and, determining the sex of infants that were going to be born, it nailed me on my own child because I had a bias. And so when you're testing someone, it's really important that anything can be the answer. In fact, we teach everybody anything can cause anything. And that's literally true. And so when you're testing someone, you always want to be open to the possibility that this answer could be anything. And you want to be accepting of that idea, because otherwise, if you have some kind of an ulterior motive or some secret hidden desire, you can't hide it deep enough for the subconscious mind of the other person to not know it. because the subconscious mind of you and whoever it is you're testing, they're in total full duplex communication the whole time. As soon as you start thinking about working with each other, the subconscious minds are talking, even at vast distances. So that's what I would say about that, that you've got to stay open and you have to be kind of a blank slate and allow whatever answer might be to just manifest. And then you'll get much, much better answers that way.
This is amazing the way that you describe it, and the associated also with the story and how things just show up, even though and it's okay to be uncertain at moments, to
Oh,
actually
totally.
then find that certainty off later. And I have to
Yeah.
say, like, when I was in when I was in Brazil in the jungle, and I spent almost a year there by myself, silent, listening to myself internally, uh, I found a lot of certainty within, and it was something because and I realized that this mirror from the internal and how it was starting to help me understand the bird and the wind and the trees, because that congruence of vibration was starting to be felt within myself. I realized at that moment, like, wow, we're constantly being spoken to by something really great, something really amazing.
Mhm.
And by paying attention to this body, we actually in our feelings, as long as we tap into the cognitive and the emotional, we can then really unlock the physical wisdom that has been given to us from thousands of years, generations. That is, we've been self-managing this type of behavior, and so my question is, what does it take? Does it take to go to a jungle and be there by yourself, for a year to really tap into this? Or is there an easier way for somebody that really wants to get more curious about the importance of our physiological language and the beauty and the power that really can be unlocked uh, from our bodies, so that people step into more congruence, so that people are more willing to listen to themselves, so people that learn to just like truly trust themselves more than anything.
Well, I think it's amazing that you went to the Amazon for a year alone. I'm glad that you're still here and you survived and didn't end up becoming a fixture there. It must have been dangerous.
I I had great guides, and I also had great support around. So, I was a lot of time alone, but there were people that would come and check on me once in a while. But yes, it was very amazing. It was a blessing.
That's really amazing. Well, that's very cool. Of course, you're right. Most people can't do that. Beautiful experience, though, and must have been amazing. How we help people that that can't necessarily have that kind of an experience is really from the viewpoint that first of all, the subconscious mind within each one of us is a computer, and it's an alien computer, really, to most of us. If you think about it, first of all, uh, I'm working on a laptop right now. I've got a screen where I see things, right, and I can read messages and so on. And I've got a keyboard where I can type in messages to the computer and so on. So I can communicate. It's a screen/keyboard interface. On your phone, if you have a smartphone, you have a screen and you can touch the screen. So it's a touch screen interface, it's called. That's how we communicate with computers. Well, when I first started getting into computers, they didn't really, I mean, a lot of the big computers didn't really have screens. There were punch cards. You'd punch holes in cards and feed them into the machine, and then the machine would spit out an answer a while later. But what I learned gradually was that the subconscious mind it's a computer, but it's unlike any computer that we're used to. In fact, it's so advanced that we haven't even realized that we've been living with a computer inside of each one of us our entire lives. And since the beginning of man, there's been this computer within us. But it's kind of an alien computer. There's no screen. There's no keyboard. How do we communicate with it? How does it communicate with us? Well, what I've learned is that it communicates to us through our symptoms. So in other words, because there's no screen for the body that it can actually flash messages to us, instead we might get a migraine headache, or we might become depressed, or feel neck pain or ankle pain or some other kind of pain, or we might not be able to conceive a child, or we might have difficulty breathing or having problems digesting our food, or we might end up being diagnosed with some kind of a disease. And those are all symptoms, really. Now, if you think about it in that way, then you realize that Western medicine is really trying to suppress people's symptoms for the most part. And so think about your car. Imagine you're driving your car down the road and your check engine light comes on. Well, if you were to approach the check engine light from the viewpoint of Western medicine, either disconnecting the light or putting a Band-Aid over the light to cover it up would be the appropriate thing to do, which really doesn't make any sense. And we know that, right? Really, the check engine light is indicative that there's something else going on, and that's what needs to be investigated. And so my life's work has been to bring to light those things that can turn on the check engine light in our body. And in the body, again, we have all kinds of check engine lights. Every mental, every emotional, every physical kind of symptom is really a check engine light. If you can't find love, that's a check engine light for you. If you can't make enough money, that's a check engine light. See, all the symptoms that we have that make us be less than ultimate performance and health and wealth and love and everything in every area of our life is indicative of other imbalances that are going on within us. And those can be things like deficiencies of vitamins and nutrients. They can be toxins. They can be pathogens in the body. They can be emotional energies and imbalances in organs and glands and disconnections between the spirit and the physical body, all kinds of things. And that's really what the body code is about. And I learned all of these things, but knew that the emotional piece of the puzzle, the emotion code, had to go out to the world. And so that's why I wrote the Emotion Code book and published it in 2007. And in 2008, Eric, one morning I woke up and my mind was full of instruction. And the instruction was, you need to take everything that you've learned about natural healing and put it into a self-study course that anyone can learn and make it available to everyone everywhere. And that's really what the body code is. And so, yeah, it's a fascinating thing. But as people start to experience this, and as they start to identify trapped emotions on themselves, on their loved ones, and as they start to see how symptoms can change, often instantaneously, and how things can improve, and depression and all kinds of things can go away, it begins to change them inevitably. And they begin to realize that there's more going on than what they see on the surface, that there is this hidden world of energies going on within all of us. And the emotional baggage that we have is a big piece of that puzzle. And so the emotion code opens people, the emotion code opens people up to this understanding, a broader understanding. It expands their consciousness so that then they're open to looking at other possibilities of the things that are in the body code, all kinds of other imbalances that can go on. And then that really helps to open people up to the next level, which is the belief code, which is where it's our newest level of certification, where you're able to find and identify the actual negative belief systems that have been built up in your subconscious mind and delete those. And so we're very excited about that. And that's our third level of certification for Discover Healing.
I love it. So people are able to now apply this wisdom through your certifications. They can learn from you, use it on themselves, and then apply it and support others as well.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing about it is precisely that it's easy enough that anyone can do it. I mean, you can pick up the emotion code book and you can start using it on your friends and family. And that's what we want. We want that to happen all over the world. And the book is being translated into more and more languages all the time. And sometimes people want to become certified so they can do this and really master it and maybe even do it for a living. And we have people doing that. We've certified over 12,000 people now in the emotion code in I don't know how many countries, probably around 80 countries all over the world. And we just launched the belief code in October. We already have 1,000 people certified in the belief code now, and that's our third level of certification. But you know the emotion code and the body code; those are tools that really anyone can learn and anyone can use. The belief code is you need a little more training to use the belief code. But all of this is actually really simple. And in fact, it's simple enough that kids can do it successfully. And we have kids all over the world using the emotion code and even the body code with great success. So it's very exciting.
I find that actually with children is like you actually learn from them if you're listening enough to them for a long period of time. Is like the reason I was so strong and powerful in the jungle is because of the indigenous brothers and sisters that were around me, uh, both energetically and when they came to say hello once or twice in silence, but still came to say like their presence. Um, there's this inherent nature that they were able to really pass on in their ways of being with reverence and sacredness, and that translated beautifully in the way that they were able to um, help me heal in the space that I was in, to really come to and step into that feeling of identity of like of the expression within. And
Mm.
that gave me it's funny, a lot of people say like, wow, you spent this year and identifying it. The beauty of it was that it was something that just naturally happened. It's not like I seeked it out, or it just naturally happened. And as a result, I got to learn all from these powerful and great leaders and youth. Uh, and
Wow.
this indigenous nature of this innocence and playfulness that children get to pass on to us, because we're all children, right? We all
Yeah.
get to be these children, and if we keep that essence, we get to then use this world as our playground and really cultivate that uh, belief into an experience. And that's where I really resonate with what you're saying with the belief code, is like, hey, it's about having the experience. It's about going through the experience, because once you have the experience, the belief turns into something so much more embodied.
Yeah.
And
What a
you,
beautiful experience you had over there.
yeah, it changed my life, man, and it's given a lot of certainty in the way that I'm able to communicate now, not just with my words, but with my body. And so the body is actually what helped me over that year to anchor in the emotion and the cognitive awareness and bring it together, because it now allows me to uh, show up.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's such an important part of life is to maintain that those childlike qualities, you know, of openness and and excitement and uh, and not getting stuck on who the world thinks we should be or who we think we should be. It's okay to be in a different kind of a place and just be totally open. And I've tried to stay in that space. I've tried to stay childlike. And I think that there's a connection there with the ego, trying to keep the ego out of it. The ego doesn't want you to be childlike. It wants you to be it wants you to rule the world or whatever, and take all the credit, etc. And that's another thing that we teach our students about is that, the moment that you start taking credit for the healing work that you're doing, because inevitably you're going to change people's lives. But the moment that you start taking that credit to yourself, that's the moment that you cut yourself off from the source of your power, which is really the higher power, the power that created everything. You don't want to cut yourself off from that power. And so when people come to you with tears in their eyes, thanking you for helping them and changing their life, you accept that graciously, but then you pass that thanks right up to the higher power, to God, the source energy, whatever you want to call it, because that's really where it belongs. And then that keeps your ego out of it, see, because as soon as your ego gets involved, you're done.
Grace, grace, 100%. Say, how can we use the ego as our servant? And if we use the ego as our servant, it's in service to the highest power. It's in service to our highest selves. And as a result, the ego, the physical part of us, allows us to make things, to make them move forward and create that level of empowered certainty, and knowing that that ego is like the greatest asset that our highest state of awareness can use in this present moment is something that allows us to, at least for me, it creates a really great relationship where it's like, I got you, you're amazing, you're doing everything and you're in service to something so much beautiful. And so it's never about you, it's about how can we
Yeah.
use this massive level of energy that's coming through us and be it as it and move through it. So your blessing, brother. I really appreciate your magic, your integrity, and your alignment. It's very felt and very appreciated. If anybody wants to know more about how to work with you, how to get involved in your courses, how to become, certified, where's the best way that they can find out more information to really support and serve alongside you?
Well, we have our main website at discoverhealing.com, HEALING, discoverhealing.com. I have a personal site at drbradleynelson.com. It's DRBRADLEYNELSON.com. And then, of course, we're on, YouTube and all the social media, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and all of those. So, well, thank you, Eric. You're an amazing individual, and it's been really fun to connect with you and feel your spirit and the journey that you've been on. It's very cool. Thanks for having me on. It's really been fun.
It's honestly been a pleasure. It really is, and I look forward to connecting more and doing cool things around the world over the next years, decades, however that looks like, and I'm certain it will come together even more closely. Last question before you go, though.
Sure.
If you had 3 days left to live, what would you do?
If I had 3 days left to live, I would make every possible effort to spend those with the people that I love, with my family. Because when you get right down to it, the most important thing, I think, is to. I think the most important thing is to. The thing that matters the most in life is your family and your loved ones. People that have lost their homes and have lost everything will tell you if they still have their family members with them, that's really all that matters. Life can be rebuilt. You can rebuild your home. You can buy a different car. The physical things fade away into unimportance in moments like that. And so that's what I would do. I would spend those last 3 days with my family, sharing with them, and trying to help them in every way that I could before I went through the door to the next life.
Beautiful, brother. Appreciate you, and let's make sure that we stay in touch. Let's keep this flow growing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Eric. It's been really fun.
Hey everyone, and thank you so much for listening to the Resilient Minds. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please make sure to go comment and like and follow us on iTunes or Spotify, and make sure, please make sure that if you really love this, to share this episode, and make sure that you're inviting all your friends to like it as we continue to unfold what the beauty of our minds does. More importantly, how powerful our heart level of intelligence can be when we combine our heart and our brain together. And more importantly, make sure you take the time to take a look at what we're doing at Balanced Media Ventures and how we can actually really support you in doubling your impact, your income, and your influence, and how you can bring your life's greatest vision into your purpose and create it from that level of reality. Talk to you soon.